Hi. Did you know that 1 in 4 American adults are in some form of a caregiving role? And many of those adults are caring for their spouses. But what happens when that caregiving ends in loss? For that caregiver, a full range of emotions come into play. And one of them, very sadly, is often guilt. And where does that guilt come from? Society, friends, neighbors, children, all who maybe mean well, but have their own ideas in their head about when it's okay for you to start living your life again, dating, maybe getting out, just plain smiling more. Today, we have a really wonderful guest who shared a very intimate story. Her name is Diane Pike Heiler. Her book is A Widow's Fire. And in this book, in a combination of what I would call mini essays, dated, exploring her journey, along with some really heartfelt poetry, she tells her story of going from caregiver to what that's like after a loss, with family and children and friends and everyone else, into finding love again after all of that. So welcome, Diane.
So nice to be here.
Oh my gosh, it is a pleasure to have you because we're going to be talking about a topic that is truly near and dear to me. My parents were married 50 years. When my father died, everyone had all their opinions on my mother, who was a firecracker at 80 years old. And I really kept saying, Mom, we love Dad, but you got to get out and live. You have a lot of living in
Yes.
you. And ultimately she did. And I'm curious, what inspired you to tell this story?
First of all, my husband laid out the roadmap. He had lost his wife after a long, very happy marriage. She died of ovarian cancer. I met him 2 months after she was gone, and I was shocked. On the second day, I said, well, how long has your wife been gone? He said, 2 months. And I went, oh my gosh, I do not want to be the one who helps him through this mourning period. And I almost walked away from him. And yet he said, no. He said, I've been mourning for 2 years. She was dying for 2 years. And I know I have to go forward in my life.
Yeah.
When he died, just before he died, he related this story to me again. And he said, you will need to find another. And I said, absolutely not. I've had a great marriage. I do not need another man in my life. I'm very comfortable being alone. Well, little did I know that after 2 months of not having a hug, not having someone say, golly, it's good to have you in my life, I realized I missed that. I wanted to have another partner. It was shocking. It was shocking to me because I thought, I have always been so capable. I really don't need another man. And I can even remember saying to Al, my former husband, I don't need you. I want you. Well, when I was by myself, totally by myself, and 81 years old, well, 80 and then 81, I thought, I don't need a man, but I definitely want a man in my life. And I had all the emotions of Widow's Fire, which is a...
What is Widow's Fire? It's a captivating name for your book. How do you define a widow's fire?
Well, I started having these sexual feelings, and that was shocking because I had not had those feelings in a long, long time. My husband was dying for 2 years. He had had prostate cancer before that. That part of our life was no longer, and I was okay with that. We had great conversation. We had a very active social life. We had everything I felt we needed. But after he was gone, I was alone, mourning terribly, and I had all these emotions. I wanted a hug so badly. I wanted a man to talk to. I had lots of girlfriends, but I wanted a man to talk to. I needed that part of my life back. And I stayed at home. I refused to go out, which I know probably was not
Makes
healthy.
it difficult to meet someone.
That's right. And the only person I really spent any time with was my sister, who had been a widow for 11 years. And she would come out and visit me. But if girlfriends wanted to come over, I just said, I just can't do it. I just am not ready yet. But then one of my husband's really good, close friends called me one day and literally said, get out of the damn house. This is not what Al wanted for you. You need to get out and live your life. So my sister said, come on, let's go to the country club. And I didn't want to go, but I knew I needed to, and I went. I had 2 vodka and tonics, which is a lot for me. And I was feeling no pain. I was on the dance floor with my sister dancing like an idiot. And
no, like a woman having fun. There's a big difference.
So friends...
You're too elegant. I can't imagine you ever being an idiot.
My good friends, Roger and Kathy Brainerd, he's an orthopedic surgeon from Tampa, actually from Nebraska, tapped me on the shoulder and said, we want you to meet our dear friend from 55 years ago from med school. And I turned around and shook this guy's hand and said, hi, Bob, let's dance. And we've been dancing ever since.
Oh, my gosh. I love this. I love this love story because it's a love story all the way through.
It is.
And why I say that is I remember you said something that really hit me. When my mother and when my father died, my mother had taken care of my father for several years because he had congestive heart failure. So she had a lot of time during that. And she ultimately had 2 marriages after my father died at 80. The first one, she met someone in the community where she was living. And I mean, she felt mad. They were madly in love. It was, the tourist brochures were all over the house, where they were going to live, how they were going to change their life. I'm like, wow, if this is 82, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to this experience in my life. This is just wild how she was reinvigorated. The first person she'd ever been with was my father. So now she's got her second Prince Charming. And when he proposed, he handed her a piece of paper and he said, I went to the doctor. And here's my medical results. I am in great health. I don't want you to think I need you to care for me, because he had cared for his wife for 10 years. And he was dead 5 months to the day of their honeymoon from invasive cancer that I don't know if the doctor knew or not. Well, my mother was devastated. And I mean, just because that truly was a shock. There was no preparation for that. There was no caregiving. It was just a 1, 2, 3. I mean, I think it was 2 weeks to the, from the time they knew what it was, and he was dead. And then, long time in recovery. So now she's like 85, and there's a man she sees in church every day who comes up to her the week before Valentine's Day and says, would you like to go on a date on Valentine's Day? And they were married 6 months later on Valentine's Day. And were married for almost 14 years before my mother just died. And her husband was, or is, he's still a wonderful guy, and from a great family, 8 years younger than her, was 8 years younger than her. But we never thought she would be the one who went first, even though that was the case. So it was a very interesting experience and all the emotions in the family. What was it like for, I don't know if, I don't want to go too personal if you don't want to talk about family reaction. What was a family reaction or friends when you started to date? You said some people were saying they wanted to get out, but there's a difference between Diane, we want you to get out, versus Diane, you're dating?
Well,
There's a big difference there.
I had some interesting comments. My sister said, I cannot believe it. I take you out the first time after
And you meant
your
Prince
husband
Charming.
died. She said, I have been a widow for 11 years. Thank you very much. She's happy for me. Very happy for me. My friends, very supportive. I had texted my children, my 4 children and my 2 stepsons, because I wanted to tell them before any friends got to them and said, well, I'm glad your mother's dating. I think that would have really upset them. So I thought the smart thing to do was to text them. I'm a big texter, which is funny in itself because for years I said I don't text. And I finally, one of the grandsons was in college and kept texting me, and I kept responding, I do not text. And then finally, after a while, I said, okay, I text now. And I've been texting ever since. But I texted everybody and I said, I've met a lovely man. I kind of gave some background that he was a friend of friends that have been friends of mine for a long time. So I sort of gave them a little short bio that this is a nice man. And I said, I would like to go to dinner with him. Well, I really got, there was some backflow there. My son was good.
Ironic, isn't it?
It
82
is.
years old, and
I
you're looking.
know.
You have to get permission to go for dinner.
Right. And now they're questioning, he doesn't want your money, does he? And no, he has his own. So it's really funny. They're doing a reverse of what I did when they started to date.
Yes.
I mean, really? My therapist said, Diane, she said, you're a smart woman. Go for it. She said, do you realize how many women out there would love to be in your shoes? And she has met him. And she said, you are so fortunate. Go for it. But his sons, my husband's sons, really took it well. The response from his older son was, had you not met my dad 2 months after my mother died, he would not have had the 30 beautiful years he's had with you. And my response was, Jeff, that warms my heart. So both
you just
boys,
gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, both boys had gone through it with their mother. They had a hard time adjusting to me coming on the scene so soon after their mother died, who I did not know her, but she was a very loving mother. And it was hard on them to see their father with another woman. But he knew what he needed to do, and he did it. So he did give me the roadmap. My children are having a rough time, but they also lost their natural father about 4 months before Al died. So they had a double whammy. And I honestly, the thing I feel the most guilty about is I was not there for them to grieve. But truly, Diane, I was grieving so deeply. I had never gone through anything so painful. I could only take care of me.
Yes.
I just couldn't. And sadly enough, they had their own lives. They had their own husbands and wives and children. I was alone. I had my 2 Yorkshire Terriers. That was it. So the grieving was different for me than it was for them. And they had never seen me so weak.
Stages of grief are so different at different times of life based on responsibilities and roles. It's like when my father died a month after September 11th, I couldn't stop crying. And I was not particularly close with my father. I appreciated my father, but I could not stop crying. It was weeks and weeks. It just little things would. And I think it was, even though we knew he was dying, we had seen him a month before. We knew he wasn't in good shape, but it's like I just didn't expect it. And I had a 1-year-old child,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm overwhelmed there and working full time. Yet when my mother died 2 years ago, who I spent 2 years with prior to the time she died, more time with her than I had spent my entire life, except maybe in my, preschool years, infant to preschool years. I cried a little, but my crying was, I had done the caregiving. I had done, we had had so many good conversations about death. And she was a very religious person and very also spiritual, would send you notes from Eckhart Tolle or whoever, like, Diane, you need to read this one. She was way out of her time and all that stuff. But the different set of emotions where I was observed with my brothers and sisters, or my mother's kind of second family from her, who was her husband, their reactions to her death, where everybody reacts differently.
Yes, absolutely.
Grief is so personal.
Yes.
But it's also why I am a huge advocate of never telling someone how to handle it. Or how to recover from it, or how to move on.
You cannot judge.
No.
Because it is so different from everybody.
Yeah.
And I have to chuckle when I have girlfriends, and some of my daughters have said, I would never get married again.
Yes.
You just don't know.
I always say there's no atheists in foxholes. When you're getting shot at, when you're the one in pain, when you're the one dealing with something, and someone says, well, I would never.
Yeah.
You're not the one who's dealing with it.
No, I'm sure that I've said the same thing.
Yeah.
I used to be judgmental. I mean, I can remember someone telling me that one of their good friends had lost her husband and she was already dating. And I can remember so clearly saying, oh, my goodness. Oh, she should wait. She should wait. Well, I didn't even know the woman. And here I was judging her based on nothing that I knew. When Al died, this is how unrealistic I was, because we had talked about everything. We had planned everything. I thought I knew everything about dying and moving forward. After he died, I went up to my home in North Carolina. I wanted to be alone. And I said, okay, I'll give myself 2 weeks. And I'm going to just really mourn the hell out of this. And then I'm going to be okay. Because that's how I've dealt with my whole life.
Oh, yeah. We got to get this show on the road.
I know. I can't waste any time here. And that just didn't happen. Yeah. You just don't put a limit on mourning.
Yeah.
I still mourn. There's you don't ever get over it. You just learn to live with it and accept it and know that he's in a better place.
Well, one of the things you made such a good point that I am so grateful for, that my mother, there were 5 of us on our side, and there were 6 kids on my mother's third husband, I guess you would have to say. Yeah, my father, and then. So, but we'd get together with them, and I spent a lot of time once they got married and, would go visit because our kids were little. So we'd take them to Florida, go visit Nanny for the week kind of thing. But one of the things that fascinated me was, they were both very comfortable with talking about Bernie's wife, Pauline, or my mother's husband, my father, Vince. And they'd be like, yeah, Vince would have liked this, or, oh, Pauline did this or that. It was almost like it was a foursome, even though in conversations, it was not that this could not be discussed. We had to deny this part of that this life existed, which is one of the things I get a kick out of Bob, embracing and, being in this supportive to this book. And because it's an acknowledgement of a big part of your life and who you are.
Yes.
But it doesn't stop. It keeps going, which is...
A lot of men, when they marry you, they want to believe that your life just began. I've been in a situation like that before where my life just didn't begin. I had a full life before I married Al, but he liked to think that
This is where we're starting.
he brought me into the world. Bob is not doing that. And I so appreciate, now that we're in New York City, we went to one of my favorite restaurants last night, and Bob, through the whole meal, kept saying, "Oh, this is delicious." And he certainly enjoys good restaurants and has been to many good restaurants through the years, very well traveled. And finally I said, "Does it bother you that I told you that this has been for over 30 years my go-to with Al?" And he said, "Not at all." He said, "I'm glad
You went 30 years to check out and make sure it was good food.
That's how comfortable he is with himself. And I appreciate that.
That's an interesting point. Self-comfort.
Oh, it's
And
the
how,
best.
yeah, how important that is in you, in Bob as a new partner, in what you bring to your new relationship. What do you have to say about that? Where does that self-comfort come from, do you think?
I think it comes from the inner person. He's had many years. I mean, he's 4 or 5 months older than me. He's 82. I'll be 82 next month. You know, if you don't learn something about yourself in 80 years, you're already lost. I mean, there is no helping that person. But we all have to grow and learn who we are and love ourselves and become a confident person within. And when you have that, you're beautiful, and so is life.
You know, that's a fun answer, because it reminded me of when my mother would get a little flack from people. And she did get a lot of flack from girlfriends who wanted to keep her, in the, well, the girls do this, the girls do that. And she was still doing that, but she was having a really good time with Bernie.
Yeah.
And, when she said, we're getting married. And I was like, wow, I love it, Mom. I think this is really cool. She goes, well, not everyone does. Yeah. And I'm like, Mom, you're a tough cookie. You've been through a lot. And she goes, you know what? She goes, you know what I tell them? She gets real feisty. She's a tiny little thing. She goes, I tell them, if I don't know myself at 82 and what I want, I'm never going to know myself. That's so true. What difference does it make?
That's true. Well, I had someone ask me one day, I'm really surprised that you opened up so much in your book, Diane. She said, you don't normally tell such private things about yourself. And my response was, well, at 80 years old, what the hell? I might as well tell it.
And what you do tell is I found your book cathartic. I'm not sure why. So I'm curious if other people have said that to you, because I have not lost a spouse.
They have. Men and women have said it.
Yeah. And I don't think you need to have I don't think this is, although it's called a widow's fire, I don't think you have to be a widow to understand the range, or a widower, because I do think this would be great for men or women to read. And almost at any point, because you tackle caregiving, loving, the changes that come through life.
Yes.
The plethora of emotions that, the ups, the downs, the all arounds, the numbness, the feeling like you have no emotions. You've got it all covered. And I love that you did it as like you're reading your diary. But at the same time, you get these poems that bring this other dimension to the book.
Well, I do have a crazy brain.
It works. It works.
I'm a multitasker, and I can't stay on any one subject too long, because I spread off into different areas. But having a good editor was fantastic. And my children have all said, Mom, we figured that the editor was probably writing the book for you. But once they read the book, they said, we hear you talking. You write just like you talk. And I said, oh, yes, I did.
That is a good editor, because the key to a successful book is that your personality
Well,
comes out. And that all an editor does is make sure it's like that this is in the right spot, or the grammar is right, or the order of the story. Yeah. But yeah, a lot of personality comes out. You're a firecracker.
Yeah. I didn't. Someone asked, have you always been like this? I said, I think I came out of the womb like this. I was the only redhead in the family.
Oh.
And my children used to say, Mom, you had to be adopted because you don't look like anybody in the family.
You know, I was just reading statistics. It's like not even 1% of the world is red hair and blue eyes.
Right. It's very, yeah. In fact, when I was in Ireland, I expected to see a lot of redheads.
You do, but you don't.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. But I did find out that my grandmother, as she got older, her hair was dark, but it wasn't. It didn't appear to me as a child to be red. But my mother said, no, she had auburn hair. And as she got older, it got dark. And so did mine. So I say that I get my hair naturally refreshed every 6 weeks. So I didn't ever really turn gray, but it got dark. And you can tell as soon as I have it naturally refreshed, the complexion just pops. I am a redhead.
That's so funny. When I look at baby pictures of me, like super baby pictures earlier than 2, my mother used to say I had Tahitian blonde. I'm like, what the heck what did that mean, Mom? She goes, well, look at your pictures. You were a redhead. I was a redhead baby.
Yeah.
Like super day glow red. Yeah. I don't know where, and it was gone by the time I was 2. There's not a single picture that looks anywhere near that. It's like, you sure you weren't doing something to that hair, Mom, that you like some postpartum? Because it doesn't look like anybody else. Yeah, very funny. Yeah, so you're a natural redhead.
Yeah.
And you are certainly a redhead.
Yeah. Well, I got the freckles.
Tell me about that redhead personality, because there is a distinct personality type. So
I was born right on the cusp, Virgo and Leo, which I say is the perfect sun sign. Because the Virgo side makes me a good businesswoman. And I will admit that. I took to business so quickly. It just, the first time I walked into the real estate company that I wound up owning, I was at home. I knew that was my place. Loved it, loved it, loved it. But then the Leo comes out. And I jokingly say, if there's not a stage and a spotlight, I'll get a box with a flashlight. But I will walk the edges of the jungle, check what's out there, but I'm very loyal. Always come back to my man.
Since you brought it back to your man, okay, so you meet Bob. You're out, one of your first nights out at the country club, and you have a first dance. How long was it before you had that first dinner and those dinners thereafter? When did you say, I'm going to keep sticking around with this guy. I'm going to try to keep him around, and I'm going to stick around and commit.
I called my friends who introduced us the next morning. I was so horrified that I was so drunk. That is not how I usually like to be displayed. But I called the next morning and apologized. I said, I am so embarrassed that I was really drunk last night. And I said, please tell your friend that is not my normal behavior. And I have to tell you that while we were dancing, I tore the meniscus in my knee, and I fell right between his legs. I'm looking up at these beautiful blue eyes. I am laughing my ass off. And he said he looked down and thought, she really hit hard, because he hurt me. And he said, a woman who can be laughing like that is my kind of woman. And so when I called to apologize the next day, I said, and please tell Roger that I tore the meniscus in my left knee again, because he had already operated on the right knee for a torn meniscus. So now I've got the left knee. And I said, but I iced it all night long and it feels better. And so Roger called out, and I'm sorry, Roger, if you see this and are embarrassed, but I heard him say, well, Bob's swollen too, but it's not his knee. I thought, well, he's got a good sense of humor.
I love it.
So my friend Kathy says, he would like to have your contact information. I said, sure, give it to him. Mm-hmm. So he called me later that day, and he said, I met you last night and you were drunk. I'd like to meet you today while you're sober. So he came over that evening. We sat on the porch. He had a glass of wine. I didn't have anything to drink. And we talked for probably 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And he said, we really just shared what we expected in life. He had been single for 40 years. So my first question was, so what's wrong with you? If nobody wanted you, what's wrong with you?
That's a good opening question.
Yeah.
And that's a question that you probably need to be 80 years old or so to really get right to the heart of the issue.
Yeah, I think he says to me, he just never fell in love. He had been married 2 different times. Mm-hmm. And he said the first time they were good friends, but he said we never fell in love. Mm-hmm. And he said the second marriage he married a beautiful model, and I can see it because he's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And he said she didn't realize when you get married you stop dating. So I thought that was a nice way of putting it. And then he was just single for so long. He said I just never felt I wanted to marry anybody I dated. And he had dated, but anyway.
And not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to because this is my podcast.
Okay. And you can do whatever you want.
What did he tell you he was looking for?
He said, I just never thought I would find someone I would want to spend the rest of my life with. Mm-hmm. And he said, I prayed I would find someone. He said, I read books on what to do, how to find someone, and it just didn't happen. He said, I've dated beautifully smart women, but never wanted to marry them. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I think I said something like, well, if you're looking for marriage, you're at the wrong door because I don't want to ever get married again. It's just too complicated. And at this age, I don't need to be married, but I do want a partner. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. And we realized we had so much in common. We really did want the same things. We wanted a partner. We wanted to be able to travel together. Mm-hmm. We wanted to be loyal to one another. If he had told me, well, I'm signed into one of those online dating apps, I would have said, you know what? I think you've had enough wine. You can go ahead and leave now. But that's not my thing. But we wanted the same things. Mm-hmm. He had never had children. I said, well, I have lots of children, lots of grandchildren, so you're going to be immersed in a big family. And he said, I'm open to it. I'm willing. And he has been most gracious about that. Yeah.
If you were advising a younger person or another person on what to expect or how to approach life after the death of a longtime partner, what would you say to them?
You have to be open. Mm-hmm. You have to be confident that you've got your eggs all in your nest, and you know where they are, and you plan well for the future. What I loved about Bob and I is that we discussed everything. And it was agreed that, one of the first things I said is, I don't want to be your mother.
Mm-hmm.
I've already raised my share of husbands.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to be able to stand on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You take care of your money, I'll take care of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And we come together mutually.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that he has done a splendid job.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we share. Sometimes he says, I want to take care of this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good. And sometimes I say, I want to take care of it. I want to treat you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've got a real good chance. But getting back to your question, what I would tell another woman or man
Mm-hmm.
is...
Because I do think this advice is universal.
It is. I think everybody needs to be very clear and upfront. If anything, I'm probably too upfront because I don't want any surprises.
Mm-hmm.
Don't come to me in 6 months and said, well, you never told me about this. And I think that we poured our hearts out to each other.
Mm-hmm.
He did ask, could I see you later this week?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I would love to. So we had dinner at least 3 times that week.
Mm-hmm.
And, but we just talked, and we were incredibly open about what we expected in a relationship.
You know, that is such an interesting theme that I have heard from people who have had second relationships or third or fourth in older life that are successful and happy with them. Because there are people that go into those subsequent relationships and they're not happy. And then they're struggling with, I jumped, it was a rebound. I don't know why I did this. Now I've got it, I've been through this before. I should have stayed single. They're in this other state of frustration. And the biggest thing I think it is it's that lack of honesty, that lack of willingness to put out whatever you want to say on the table. I mean, I remember looking at my mother saying, wow, you really discussed that? She goes, what do I have to lose by discussing that?
That's
she
right.
I goes, I have a lot to lose if I don't get it out there.
Yes.
And if he doesn't get it out there.
Right.
Because I'm not doing that.
Right.
She goes, I don't need that at this point in my life.
No, I totally agree with her. I think that it was kind of a shock to Bob that I was as open and honest as I was. And I've told a couple of friends, I thought I'd chased him away because I was so blunt and so open about what I expected. What have you got to lose? And that way they can never say, well, you never told me.
Right.
Oh, yes, I told you.
And it goes in all areas of life, in relationships, because I swear I thought I was going to choke, and it still is probably going to make me buckle with laughter repeating this. But when I'm sitting at a breakfast table in my mother's kitchen with her and, her now husband at the time, and she says, the first time he kissed me, I told him that's not how you kiss a woman. I'm like, okay, this is not the conversation I ever thought I was going to be having with my now 84-year-old mother.
I love it.
And he's like, yeah, she told me I was a sloppy kisser, and I had to improve if I was ever going to get her lips again.
I totally agree with her. Bob is a great kisser.
It's very important.
It's very important. I say he's a great hugger.
Oh, that's very important.
Great hugger. And I so appreciate him. Yeah. We're having fun. And someone the other day, a girlfriend was asking me, she's a little younger than me, and she asked, I like sex at this age? I said, well, all the parts still work.
Well, that was another one. My mother calling me up and saying, Diane, 2 things I want to talk to you about. And Mom, this is hilarious. One was, Bernie told me I need new bras. I'm like, oh, yeah? She goes, yeah. She said, the bra I'm wearing is a no-see-em. And he wants to see them.
That's cute. That's cute.
But yeah, alive and well at any age.
It's true. And I
Thus,
never thought about it.
a widow's fire.
Yes, yes. And it's not just, as I said earlier, the book is not just for women.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually had men call me and say, thank you for writing this. I identify with what you're saying. So it happens to men too, but it's a natural, I don't know whether it's a part of the mourning process to want to be loved again, to want to be held again, to want to have those emotions again. One of my daughters said, after I met Bob, she said, Mom, you're like a teenager. And I said, I know.
That's what we all said about my mother. It was like, wait a second. We have no idea where she is anymore. She's out gallivanting, using her word. Where are you going to go gallivanting? I'm like, well, Mom, you're doing a lot of gallivanting. We can't find you anywhere.
Yeah, well, I get that too.
And I think at different phases in life, there's probably people that are a little jealous that, wait a second, she's having a good time.
But yes, one of my daughters said, Mom, I want you by yourself. I don't want to share you with him. And I'm going, she's married and has her own children.
Yeah.
She, that's time to grow up. But I think we all do want someone special in our lives.
Something you said that I think is timeless advice. I just recently read that a new study, marriage had gone out of favor for a lot of years, really even partnerships, kind of like no, I'm going to be independent. I'm going to do this all on my own, And a new study just said younger people are getting married again at higher rates than in the past, like I think it's 10 or 15 years. And a lot in your book, candor, discussing everything. I think that is timeless advice for someone at any stage of life.
Yes. 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 I don't think we were meant to be alone. It's wonderful having someone who cares for you. And when you hurt, they hurt. I have been so blessed. I certainly didn't see it coming for Bob. I mean, I can remember thinking I would be alone for the rest of my life. I am so fortunate to have had someone of such quality meet me and say that he would like to spend the rest of his life with me. He took me to meet his 102-year-old mother. And
I loved reading that.
I loved it. I loved it that when he told me that he wanted to fly me to Nebraska and meet his mother, and I said, now let me get this straight. Your mother, at the time she was 101, I said, your mother wants her 80-year-old son to fly his 80-year-old girlfriend for her approval. And he said, well, yes. And then he tells me, now you need to kind of dress down. She is a good lady from Nebraska. She lives in Iowa. And he said, don't be too flashy. 'Cause I tend to, have the red hair and the, jewelry and what have you. And then I thought to myself, you know what? She's either going to like me or not. And I've got to be me. Well, the lady loved my black leather pants. And it was cold weather, so I wore a mink coat. And he had said, don't wear the mink coat. I said, it's the only coat I have. I live in Florida. I don't wear a lot of coats, but when we travel to New York or wherever, it was usually in the wintertime, I wore my mink coat. Well, she loved it all. She loved it all. She loved my earrings. She loved my mink coat. She loved my leather pants. So cute. Just a vibrant, intelligent, neat lady. 102 now. We just talked to her this morning. She said, I feel tired today. I feel tired today. Her daughter said the cutest thing the other day. She said, Mother is finally showing her age. And we burst out laughing. I want to be like that.
Yeah, I think you are.
She told me, you don't look like you're 80.
You
and
don't.
I said, you don't look like you're 100.
So, time goes too fast during these podcasts, but one of the themes I think we covered is life is for the living.
Yes.
What would be your most important takeaway that you would besides buy my book, which I highly recommend to everyone at every stage and phase?
If you can't afford it, I'll give it to you.
But what would be your sagest recommendation for someone who has gone through the caregiving process, has gone through that grieving, is now saying, what do I want my remaining years to look like?
Just burst forth with the best you've got, whether it's, I never expected to write a book, but isn't it fun? Here I am, 80, almost 2 years old, and
about to become an internet sensation when this podcast goes viral.
I hope so. But the main thing is that I hope I help somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And that is almost daily happening where someone texts me and says, thank you. But life isn't over just because your mate died.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've had a wonderful mate, as I did, they encourage you to keep living.
Mm-hmm.
And when you stop, you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
So keep living. And there's so much out there, whether it's volunteer work, whether it's deciding I'm going to write that novel that I've always thought about. And I've had a couple of friends tell me that, I've always wanted to write a book. And now you've given me courage to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it. Go for it. And if Mr. Charming comes your way, grab him and hug him and go for it. I want to continue living. I don't want to stop. I've always got a project going. And I think everybody should have a project, whether it's just taking a trip, writing a book, having a new love affair. Do it. Enjoy it. Squeeze the goodie out of the life.
Oh, that's really good advice. What a show closer. Oh my gosh, Diane. What a pleasure having you. You're beautiful inside and out. Truly a delightful being.
My priest actually told me that, so that was a pretty good validation.
There you go. My guest today has been Diane Pike Heiler. She is the author of this book, A Widow's Fire, that you can pick up. There's going to be all kinds of links below that you can just click the link and go right to her Buy the Book page, because I really recommend you do buy it for yourself, for anyone you know who's caregiving for someone else, for any male or female, widow or widower, or just plain anyone even thinking about entering a serious relationship, because there's a lot of wisdom in these pages about love and truly that meaning of for better or for worse and everything else in between. Thank you very much, Diane, for being my guest.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you, everybody. This is the Silver Disobedience Perception Dynamics podcast. I'm Dian Griesel, the host, and we have been recording in Manhattan Center, which is a phenomenal place. I highly recommend you check out the Manhattan Center website so you can see all the things that can happen here, from concerts to TV shows being recorded, to movies getting filmed, to soundtracks recorded. There was an orchestra in here recently, again, getting recorded. And it's always phenomenal things happening here. And I'm truly honored to be sitting in TV2. Thank you. Please hit subscribe. See you soon.